muscular discomfort, entirely up to you. Finding your position to begin with. If I'm seated, see if I can give myself space. So encouraging that nice relaxing belly breath, is that a diaphragmatic breathing. So giving space for the diaphragm to be able to descend on the inhalation and to descend in the inhalation and ascend on the exhalation. If I'm laying down, just using the mat to help me support the body, relaxing the arms down the side, encouraging the palms to turn and face up to the ceiling so that the front of the chest can really open up, the collarbones can spread a little bit wider, the front of the chest and the front of the throat can relax a little bit more. And then trying to find that nice calming belly breath. So see if I can soften the front of the chest, relaxing the front of the throat and front of the neck. And at the same time, doing the usual scanning over the body. So noticing the pressure, if I'm seated, the pressure under the seat bones, is it the same? Am I putting more weight on one side than the other? I'm not changing anything, just noticing where I am and how I feel to begin with. If I'm laying down, just noticing the pressure at the back of the hips, at the back of the shoulders. Again, am I twisted? Am I straight? Am I slightly off to one side? Is my head in the middle? Is the pressure under the arms different? Is the pressure under the legs different? And then as I start feeling a little bit more relaxed, but also as a little bit more aware of the body as well, then I'm just going to focus on the back. Starting from the neck, I'm just going to start with little rotations. I'm just going to turn the head from side to side, from side to side, without forcing, without spending too much time on one side or the other, just to see if I can keep it flowing easily. Relaxing through the jaw, noticing any restriction. Turning on one side might be feeling a little bit harder than turning on the other. There might be a little bit of a pinching, a little bit of entrapment as I turn. I'm not forcing. I don't want to cause myself any pain. 3, 2, 1. Easing the head back to the middle. And then this time I'm going to take the rotation through the upper body, through the rib cage. So whether I'm laying down or sitting up, I'm going to bring the arms to the front. I can keep them apart. I can clasp the hands together. And then I'm going to start rotating from side to side. So getting the rib cage moving, swinging the arms around one way, coming back and then swinging around the other way. So rotating to one side and then rotating to the other. So rolling from shoulder to shoulder. If I'm lying down on the back, imagine to be massaging across the back of the shoulders, the middle of the back. If I'm seated, I'm going to use as much space as I can, trying to turn, to look around as much as possible, turn to look the other way. Noticing if the chin tends to drop down into the chest, to see if I can keep a nice lifted head, a nice longer neck. If I'm laying down, just be aware of the shoulders, making sure that the shoulders don't start sneaking up to your head, to your ears. So see if I can keep them down, see if I can keep them away. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And releasing back, relaxing the shoulders, relaxing through the upper body. So there's a little bit more movement at the top. I'm going to try the same, but working through the bottom of the spine. So shuffling the feet and the knees nice and close together. If I'm laying down, I'm just going to start rolling the hips from side to side. So taking the legs to the left, taking the legs to the right. If I'm seated, obviously I'm seated on the seat bench, so I can't really rotate through the hips so much. So I'm just going to use the arm to help me twist. So with the right hand, I'm going to reach across to the left leg. I'm going to pull the legs to the side and turn away. And then come back to the center, pull the legs to the side and then turn the other way. So still trying to get the hips involved in some degrees, but making sure that I'm moving through the upper body as well as the hips. If I'm laying down, the upper body stay relaxed and just the hips are rolling from side to side. Picture a little golf ball between your knees. Let's see if you can hold that golf ball. Try not to let it drop. 6, 5, 4, finding the breath that works for you. 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, adjusting the hips, straightening up the back. Just a little bit more movement in rotation. I'm going to see if I can get a little lateral flexion. Starting from the hips, I'm going to get into a little hip hitch. So I'm going to hitch the right hip up towards the rib cage, pulling up on the right, and then hitching that left to that left side of the rib cage, pulling up on the left. So if I'm lying down, I can feel the back of my hips are just rubbing gently against the mat and then moving from side to side. Feeling the right side of the belly pulling up on the right hip, feeling the left side of the belly pulling up on the left hip. If I'm seated, same as usual, imagine to be taking the pressure of the seat bed. So I'm going to try and hitch up on one side, relax, and then hitch up on the other side and relax, using the arms to help me stabilize the movement a little if I need to. So concentrating on the side of the belly, the side of the waist, to see if I can think of squeezing it tight. So I'm going to squeeze it tight to pull up on the hip, and then I'm going to relax. Squeeze tighter to pull up on the other side and relax again. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, relaxing the neck, relaxing the shoulders, last one, and easing back to the middle, straightening up the pelvis, resetting the hips in the middle, and then keeping with the lateral flexion, but this time I'm going to take it up into the thoracic. So if I'm seated, I don't need to support the head is already on top of the shoulder. If I'm laying down, I might want to support the head with one hand as I start to reaching down with the other. So with my right arm, I'm going to try and reach down the right side, pulling back to the center. With the left arm, I'm going to start reaching down to the left. So this time I can feel the shoulders rubbing against the mat to help me move the rib cage from one side over to the other. So creating as much movement as possible through the thoracic spine. I can still feel the side of the belly tensing, but this time, instead of tensing to pull the hip up, it's tensing to pull the rib cage down on the side, and then it's pulling down the other way. If I'm seated, carrying that, the back is keeping straight, so imagine your back to be against the wall. I'm going to try and keep my shoulders and my head on the wall, so I'm not coming forward, I'm not leaning away. If I'm lying down, I've got the mat to guide me into the position, so I'm supporting the head. As I flex to the side, I'm supporting the head as I pull down the other way. 7, 6. Relaxing the neck. Think of the weight of the head sitting in your hand if you're laying down. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1. And breathing back, or bringing yourself back to the center, adjusting the shoulders, adjusting the rib cage. And then I'm going to move up into the neck. So keeping the head on the floor if I'm laying down, I'm just going to try and pull the right ear down to the right shoulder. Then coming back, and then the left ear to the left shoulder. And then coming back. So right to the right. Back to the center, left to the left. The same as I did before, I can use the hands at the back of the head to support the head as I'm moving it from side to side. But just make sure that the movement stays in the neck this time. So I'm not moving the rib cage, I'm not moving the upper back. So just dropping the head down one side, bring it back to the center, and then dropping down the other way, creating a gentle stretch the opposite side of the neck to the one I'm dropping. If I want to make the stretch a little bit stronger, I'm just going to try and depress the shoulder. So as the right ear comes down to the right shoulder, with my left shoulder, I'm going to press down and away. So it's a little bit more traction on the left side. And then reversing as I go the other way. 5. 4. 3. 2. Last time. And easing back, returning the head back to the middle, relaxing the neck. So there's a little bit more movement in lateral flexion. I'm going to try with a little flexion extension. So starting again from the neck, I'm going to get into a little skull rock. So pressing the chin into the back of the throat, I'm going to push the back of the neck into the floor, into the mat. If I'm seated, imagine to be pushing your head behind your shoulders. So I'm going to try and lengthen through the back of the neck, maintaining that lift. Then I'm going to come forward, I'm going to raise the chin up, lengthening and stretching down the front of the throat. Then coming back, tucking the chin, pressing the back of the neck into the floor behind me. And then I'm going to lift up, lengthen to the front of the throat, and then back again. So same as usual, making sure that as you're lifting the chin up, so stretching down the throat, there is no pinching at the back of the neck. So there is no referred pain down the arms. So there's no pins and needles into the fingers. There is no shooting pain going into the arms. If there is, I'm going to ease on the size of the movement, making sure that I'm not creating pinching into the back of the neck that will cause that referred pain down the arms and into the hands. 5. 4. 3. 2. Last one. And releasing back, releasing the shoulders, relaxing the neck, more movement through the cervical. Again, we're going to drop down into the thoracic. So I'm going to do the same movement, but I'm going to do it with my chest. So I'm going to push the chest forward. I'm going to try and lift the back of the ribcage away from the mat. And then I'm going to push the back of the ribcage into the mat. So I'm going to try and lift it away and then push it in. If I'm seated, I've got more space. So I'm going to exaggerate this. I'm going to try and extend this, so lifting through the chest, opening through the front of the chest, the front of the body. And then I'm going to flex. I'm going to push the ribcage back as much as I can. I'm going to try and open up between the shoulders and into the middle of the back. Then again, I'm going to try and open up through the chest and then open up through the back. So creating a big movement. Again, making sure that I'm not forcing, so I'm not causing myself any pain. 5. 4. 3. 2. 1 more. And releasing back, relaxing the shoulders, squeezing the middle of the back. So there's a little bit more movement through the thoracic. I'm going to drop down into the lumbar. This time I'm going into a little pelvic tilt. So exactly the same as I did for the neck, exactly the same as I did for the upper back. I'm going to tilt the pelvis backwards. I'm going to try and round the lower back, pressing the lower back into the mat. And then I'm going to tilt it forward, back into neutral and into a little extension if I feel comfortable doing so. Then again, I'm going to roll the hips back, pressing the lower back into the mat. And then I'm going to lift away. So pushing back into the floor and then releasing back into neutral. So if I'm seated this time, see if I can try and concentrate and then send the intention down into the lower back. So I want the lower back to change shape, not the upper back. So the upper back is staying pretty steady, pretty still. It's the lower back that is moving. So it's only a little movement. If I'm laying down, again, using the mat to help me guide. So see if I can try and tilt the pelvis back, pressing the lower back into the mat before I go forward again and then return back into that little extended position. So I'm going to tilt and release the tilt. Tilt and release the tilt. Feeling the belly drawing in, drawing up as I tilt the pelvis back. And then I'm going to relax as I return back into neutral. 4. 3. 2. 1. And releasing back, adjusting the hips, adjusting on the lower back. This is a little bit more movement into the back. I'm going to see if I can start to focusing more on the limbs, on the arms and legs, starting with the shoulder joint and then gradually working through the elbow and the wrist, and then I'm going to move into the leg. So for the shoulder joint, I'm going to bend the elbows and then I'm just going to tuck the elbows into the side of the rib cage. So really trying to squeeze them in. Then maintaining the elbows, squeeze into the side of the rib cage. Palms are facing towards my face. So imagine to be standing holding a tray in your hands. I'm going to drop that tray. So I'm going to open the arms out to the side. So I'm going to let my tray drop and then I'm going to rotate them back to the center. See if you can picture the movement happening in the shoulder joint. So think of the humerus at the top of the arm. Imagine somebody standing next to you, seated next to you, grabbing hold of your arm and trying to turn it into the shoulder socket. So I'm not pulling back from the shoulders. I'm not pulling the elbows into the floor. I'm not pulling the elbows behind. The elbows are staying glued to the side of the rib cage. I'm just trying to turn and then turn back. So the movement is not massive. You can be very restricted, and one side is normally better than the other. So I'm just going to notice which side feels stiffer, which side feels harder to move. Noticing maybe some, or maybe too much tension into the side of the neck. Let's see if I can remind the shoulders to stay down, the neck to stay long. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, relaxing the shoulder, releasing the arm. So it's a little bit more movement deep into the shoulder joint. This time I want to try and work into the elbow as well. So I'm going to start in the same position. I'm going to tuck the elbows into the side, bend the elbows. I'm going to rotate the arms out, so turning the palms as if I was trying to take the thumbs to the floor or to the wall behind me if I'm seated. Then from there, I'm just going to reach the fingertips to the side of the room. So I'm going to open wide through the arms, extending through the elbows. I'm going to bend the elbows. I'm going to pull them back into the side of the waist. And then I'm going to rotate the arms back into the starting position. So I'm going to turn the arms out. I'm going to reach them out to the side, pull them back into the side, and then I'm going to rotate them back to the front, and then try again. So keeping the movement going, adding the little extension through the elbow, making sure that, again, especially if you're seated, you're not pulling up from your neck, you're just trying to extend it through the arm. So I could keep the arm a little bit lower, I can bring the arm at shoulder level. It doesn't matter, it's whatever feels comfortable for both shoulders, whatever is going to encourage my neck to stay relaxed. So I'm going to rotate out, and then I'm going to reach off to the side. Pull the elbows back into the waist, and then turn the arms back into the starting position. So rotate, and open, pull back in, and close. 2 more times. Rotate and open, pull back in and back. Last time. Rotate and open, pull back in and return. Relaxing the arms and releasing the elbow. So it's a little bit more movement, the shoulder and elbow joint. This time I want to focus a little bit more onto the wrist joint. So whether I'm seated or lying, I'm just going to interlock the fingers nice and loose. So I'm not clasping the hands too hard, it feels loose. And then from there, I'm just going to start rolling the wrists around. So see if you can create as much movement through the wrist joint as possible, both right and left side, noticing which direction, at which point throughout the rolling, I might find that there is a little bit of a restriction, maybe a little bit of a clicking, or maybe a little bit of a discomfort as I go through that range. See if I can try and relax it. See if you can roll both ways. So the tendency is to go forward because it's easier. See if I can roll the wrist both directions. I might try a couple going forward, and then a couple coming back, a few going forward, and then a few going back, maybe changing the interlocking as well. So at the moment, my right hand is starting at the top. So I'm going to swap so that my left hand starts at the top, and then noticing if that makes the movement feels any different, or the wrist movement feels any easier, any harder. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and releasing back, releasing through the wrist. And then I'm just going to see if I can stretch it just a little bit more through the forearm, still working on the wrist, combining with the elbow joint. So I'm going to turn the right hand to face towards my head, towards my face, is to face up. The right elbow is bent. With the left hand, I'm going to go palm to palm over the top of the right hand, and then I'm going to push the right hand down. So my fingers are now pointing towards my feet. So I can feel a little stretch at the front of the wrist. I'm going to keep that gentle pressure downwards into the hand, into the fingers, and then I'm going to try and extend the right arm in front of me. So I'm going to push away. So encouraging a little bit more stretch through the forearm. Then I'm going to bend the elbow, and then I'm going to try again. So I'm going to push forward, try to straighten up the arm, and then I'm going to bend and come back. Push forward, trying to straighten up the arm, and then bend and come back. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and release. Then I'm going to do the same thing, but with the left side. So turning the left palm to face towards you, the elbow is bent. I'm going to put the right hand directly on top, and then pushing down with the right hand, I'm going to try and point the fingers towards the feet. So opening up the front of the wrist. And then from there, I'm just going to drive away from that left arm, extending the elbow, and then I'm just going to ease back. So there's a little bit more stretch. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and releasing back. Giving the wrist a little roll, so it's a little bit more movement into the wrist and joint as well. I'm going to move down into the legs, so trying to work through the hips, trying to work into the legs. So I'm going to start off with some circles. So if you needed to support the leg or to guide the leg, same as usual, popping the band behind the right leg so that I can give it a little support with my arms or a little guidance with my hands. If I'm lying down, I'm going to raise the leg so that the knee is directly above the hip, so my knee's pointing up at the ceiling. If I'm seated, the knee's pointing already straight ahead, so I don't need to lift the leg up. Then I'm going to guide that leg into a little circular movement. So I'm going to start to draw in circles with the tip of the knee on the wall in front of me or on the ceiling above me. So it could be a big circle, it could be a very little circle. See if I can try and keep it relaxed and keep it smooth. So encouraging the leg to relax into the hip socket so that the hip is going to allow a little bit more movement. So I can feel the top of the humerus, the top of the femur, the top of the leg gliding gently around the hip socket. Nothing is grinding, I'm not forcing, I'm not stiffening. I'm trying to relax as much as I can. I'm going to reverse the circle going the other way. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and release. Relaxing that leg. I'm going to try the same thing to the other side. This is switching the band behind the other leg if you need that support. If I'm lying down, I'm going to raise the leg so that the knee is directly above the hip. And then I'm just going to start guiding that leg into that little circle. See if I can try and relax as much as I can. So encouraging the leg to move, nothing grinds, nothing pinches. See if I can ease off some of the tension, some of the blockage of that stiffness. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Reversing the circle going the other way. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And releasing back, relaxing the hip, releasing that leg. And then what I want at this time is trying to find a little bit more connection into the knee joint. So I'm going to use the band to help me hold the leg. So I'm just going to swing the band behind the right leg. And then again, if I'm seated, I'm just going to pull the right leg up. With the arms, I'm just going to hold the steady. So I don't want the arms to pull or push. I just want the arm to lock and keep the leg where it is. If I'm seated, I can use the band. I don't really need the band as I'm in a seated position. What I want is to start extending that right knee. So I'm going to try and straighten up the leg as much as I can. Feeling the front of the thigh, working hard to pull the leg up towards the ceiling if I'm laying down, towards the opposite side of the room if I'm seated. And then I'm just going to bend and then allow the shin to drop back. So I'm going to try and extend, making the front of the thigh tense. And then I'm just going to bend. The tendency you might find is for the leg, for the knee to extend, but the hip to extend it too. So the body will kind of like straighten up. See if I can try, especially if I'm seated, to keep the hip flexed, and then just to think of the, almost like the bottom of the thigh, pulling onto the knee to help me extend the joint, and then bend it. So it could be a little lift, it could be a big lift, it doesn't matter. If I'm laying down, again, I might be able to straighten the leg up. I might only be able to lift the shin up slightly. It's whatever it is. But each time, see if I can try and find a stronger connection into the front of the leg. 5, 4, 3, 2, last one. And releasing down, relaxing the hip, but releasing the thigh. I'm going to try the same thing on the left side. So I'm going to pick up the left leg if I'm laying down, supported with the band or supported with the hands. And then again, from here, I'm going to try and extend that left knee. So straightening up the leg as much as I can. And then I'm just going to bend and release. If I'm seated, I'm going to try and extend the leg forward. And then I'm going to pull it back in again. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And releasing back, relaxing the hip, raising the thigh. The leg maybe just a little tapping, a little slapping. Making sure that the front of the hip or front of the leg doesn't feel too stiff, too tight. And then if you're laying down, walking the feet up and towards the hips, we're going to bridge up and down a few times. So see if we can open up through the hips. If I'm seated, I'm just going to bring the feet a little bit closer to the hips and then rocking my way forward onto the feet. I'm going to try and push off as if I was trying to stand off my chair. And then I'm just going to sit back down again. Well, if I'm laying down, I'm going to try and drive the hips up, trying to get the full extension into the hip. And then I'm going to relax it back. 2 more. And back. Last one. And releasing back. Relaxing the hips and releasing the legs. If you're lying down, rolling over onto one side, and in your own time, pushing yourself up into sitting. Finding your comfortable seated position, leaning against something sturdy behind if you need a support, or using the hands behind the hips to help you support the back or support your seated position. And then as I feel a little bit more balance over the hips, over the seat bones, I'm going to try and create space at the front. So it's trying to lift to the front of the chest. I'm going to push it forward, lift it up, rolling the shoulders back and dropping the shoulders down. I'm going to try and look forward, look up, look back. And then I'm going to release, coming forward, rounding the back, allowing the head to drop, the shoulders, the back to relax, the forward. Then lifting again, extending as much as I can, lifting through the chest, extending through the upper back, looking forward, looking up, looking back, and then coming forward, rolling down, dropping down. Last time, extending up, opening up, lifting as much as you can. And then releasing, coming forward. One hand to the belly, one hand to the back. Take your bow. Give yourself a clap for that. Any question or anything as usual, please say. Remember, you need to unmute yourself.
That was lovely.